on mute. Let's try that again. Gotta love going live. We were on mute right there. Welcome back to the Jake Gagain Show, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jake Gagain. I was so fired up from that intro. I was dancing in the background that I had to put it on mute. But we are here live. We have an exciting episode tonight as we're going to be interviewing a UFC fighter, top 20 UFC fighter. As you guys know, my favorite sport in the world. And he will be joining us today to talk about cryptocurrencies, UFC. He has a very, very exciting past, a very interesting past. He's a current UFC fighter, and we're actually both bullish on a token that we both invest in called the Mandox token. If you are joining us, do me a favor, smash that like button so we can bring in more people from the crypto space. And as always, let me say what's up to the people in the chat. Sir D2 is here. We got Crypto Fresh on, El Campa Punch, Daniel Rosenberg. He said, let's go. I'm fired up. My guy Usman is here. What is up to JH Mons, the legend? Luke Humphreys himself is in the chat. Shout out to Luke, one of the devs of Mandox. Hoing is here. We're going to have a good show, guys. Fireball. Is that a sign? Do we need to have some fireball in here? Is that a sign? I don't know if that's a sign, but I know what is a sign. Having the devs of Mandox on here. We got to bring in our guy, Ian Heinisch. And guys, I have a wager with you guys at home. If Ian's wearing a Mandox shirt, someone's got to set $1,000 in the stream because it might be true. That was a joke, but let's go ahead and bring in my guy, Ian Heinisch. Ian, I am honored to have you here. How are you doing today, man?
Hey, what's up, man? How's it going? Appreciate you getting me on.
Man, I gotta say, dude, and I as I mentioned when we first started, I'm a huge UFC fan, and it's funny, before we even connected on Twitter or before we even were talking about, having some of the same tokens and what's up to David, I watched a couple of your fights. So I've been following your career. I've watched your fights, and I'll tell you what, man, you're definitely a badass, and it's impressive to see what you've done in your career so far in the UFC.
I appreciate it, man. And yeah, man, I've been a fan of yours too since I've been really getting into crypto. You got me invested in Saitama, and yeah, man, I appreciate what you do too.
Of course, man. That's what I'm trying to do is just, build a fun platform where people can learn about crypto. And we have $1,000 bet. You can see Vince said badass shirt. Can you hold that up? Is that a
yes,
Mandox
it
shirt?
Is.
There
Let's
it is.
go.
Talking about Mandox. We're going to be talking about Mandox quite a bit. I'll be honest. I know you're a brand ambassador for Mandox. I've made a couple videos. I've had some live streams. I tell it how it is. I love the dev team. I love the community. I love the project. And we're seeing right now Mandox is soaring to, if not already hitting all-time highs here. But I want to start with that. You said that you kind of started finding this video and these streams when you started your crypto journey. How long has it been for you? Are you pretty new to crypto? Did you start this year, or have you kind of been dabbling for quite some time?
Yeah, so I kind of came into the whole scene with Dogecoin,
Nice.
kind of when that was blowing up, and made some decent profits on that. I was on the Robinhood app with AMC, so that's how that kind of fell into place. And then after I was trying to do the stocks, and I was like, man, crypto is just such a different type of return. Yeah, you can lose quick, but you can win quick. And it's like, it was just more up my alley, you know what I'm saying? And so for about a year and probably about a year and a half, I've been just diving into the crypto space, really looking at altcoins, having some successes, having some lessons, been involved in a few rug pulls. Been involved, in some sketchy migrations where the coins just disappeared, but kind of learned how to do some better DD and not get involved into coins that are, not worth anything and probably going to lose your money. And I actually put $500 in Mandox, probably 2 days before they launched, or 2 days after they launched. Sorry, and my 500 went to 4,000 in a couple weeks, and then that was when we kind of had that big dip. And I jumped on a chat, just like a random chat on Twitter. They pulled me up. They asked me, "Hey, what are you bullish on?" And I said, "Man, everything's kind of in a dip now. The only thing green on my account is Mandox." And then they were like, "Oh, we know the devs," and I ended up meeting them, and that's kind of how it all connected.
Yep, and you're a brand ambassador for Mandox, and I'm going to pull up the chart right here. We can see, Mandox has been looking very, very strong. I'll be honest. They're doing things the right way. I've been in the crypto space for about 4 years. I've been obviously covering projects every single day, and they're doing things the right way. First off, they have a transparent dev team that's doxed. I'm pretty sure they just announced today they've locked their wallets, and their wallets are public, right? So you believe in them. And honest, I had two of the devs on the stream, and you can tell when you're talking to a good person. These guys are in Guatemala. Luke's in Guatemala helping to build missionaries. I've personally connected with all 6 or 7 of the devs, have conversations with them, and it's refreshing because on my end, I'll talk to devs and it's like, They don't show their screen. They don't show their face. Like, they don't even want to tell you their name. And to talk to people that are transparent, it means a lot on my end. It's peace of mind. Let me ask you, obviously, you know, you have a pretty big platform. You're a UFC fighter, right? Like, you have reach, and I'm sure tokens approach you. Why Mandox? Why did you decide to become a brand ambassador for Mandox?
Well, I mean, my life story, man, is a redemption story. You know, I was rock bottom in a foreign prison cell 8 years ago, and 4 years after that, I bounced back to breaking into the top 10 in the UFC. And the Lord really healed me of my addictions. He saved me in so many sketchy situations in prison, and honestly, like, I'm just here because of him, and I'm blessed to be alive. And Luke's a fellow follower of Jesus, and so we really connected on that. And I love his mission and his heart behind the project. And honestly, I was just like, wow, like, I feel like God brought us together.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It looked like we lost Ian for a second. Maybe the phone. There he is. Now we got him back. That's amazing. And it's a beautiful story. But I got to ask, man, I'm really curious. How does one go from a prison cell 8 years ago to the top 10 in the UFC?
Yeah, man, I mean, you got to kind of go back a little bit. I started wrestling around age 11. Super accomplished wrestler, but around the age of 13, I got in trouble at school, but I went to the doctor. The doctor said, you have ADD, ADHD. They prescribed me Adderall. Coming from a long line of addiction, my father, my uncle, my cousins, everyone on that side of the family suffers from this plague of addiction. And instantly I was hooked, man, and it led to doing alcohol, cocaine, and basically I was a two-time state champ with partying all the time. I was an All-American a few times. I took fourth at senior nationals, and I got expelled my senior year, but I still went to nationals because it was like the Super Bowl of your career. And you have to be a state champ to even go. And I ended up taking fourth, got a full ride scholarship, blew that whole opportunity away, drank it away, came back to Colorado, ended up going to Canada, getting in trouble over there, lived there for 8 months, came back, started selling ecstasy, got set up in a Walmart parking lot, pistol to my head. And I posted bail when I was 19. And I said, man, I ain't going to prison in America. I just knew how bad it was. And they issued me a passport, and I hopped on a Greyhound, Indiana, said goodbye to my family, hopped on a train to New York, said goodbye, JFK to Amsterdam with like $2,000 in my pocket.
Wow. That is an insane story. And I think it all starts at the beginning, man. Look, obviously growing up, I'm 26. I just graduated college not too long ago. The number one drug on campus is Adderall. And guess what? It's prescribed to everybody. And it's like, I don't take that stuff because I understand how addictive it is. And I sit there and I think, and I go, how are they prescribing this to kids? I remember growing up, my 10-year-old friends were prescribed it because they couldn't sit still in class. No shit. They're 10 years old and they're kids. They're not supposed to be able to sit still in class. So I think it's a crime from these pharmaceutical companies to be prescribing this to kids at a young age. And look, addiction runs in a lot of people's family. It runs in mine, right? Like drinking alcohol and smoking, like tobacco. These things are addictive. And when you start a kid so young, you know, I think it's going to lead to that. But what a comeback story for you. So it sounds like throughout your life, though, you were always a gifted athlete. You had this addiction, you know, weighing over you, and you partied a little bit too much, which I'm in the same boat, man. I did that. Like it's kind of part of life and growing up in America as well. Was fighting, because right now, for those that don't know, you know, Ian is a UFC fighter, so it's mixed martial arts. It's a combination of wrestling, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the most badass sport in the world, and some of the hardest people in the world. But was fighting always your thing? You were a top-notch wrestler, but were you someone that was, you know, training in the gym, or were you kind of just getting in street fights and that's where you're handling some of the fighting?
Yeah, kind of like what you said. Yeah, just getting in fights on the street. But the Lord kind of put it in my heart, hey, you're going to be a fighter someday. I used to sit there in college when we went and watch Mike Tyson knockouts. I used to watch Fedor Emelianenko when YouTube was big, and like when YouTube first came out and became big. And then when I got locked up, so I basically, long story short, I ended up in Spain, ended up homeless. These Colombians took me in. They acted like my family, but I still have a great relationship. They said, hey, gringo, let's go make some real money. And I was like, yeah. And I started trafficking. I started going Venezuela, Aruba, Mexico. swallowing a kilo of Coke and bringing it back. At first, it was just for them, and then after that, I started taking my own trips. Too many stamps in my passport. Got pulled into the office, taken to the hospital, X-rayed. Boom, 3.5-year sentence. And then, man, it was just like God really was pulling on my heart. Hey, like, you're gonna be a fighter. And they had a wrestling program called Lucha Canadia. It's like basically like you wrestle with a gi. It's kind of like Senegalese African style wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
They had a kickboxing program. I learned Spanish fluent, and I was really clearing my head up. I was away from the Adderall. And another thing too, like you were saying with pharmaceuticals, when I was 17, I was so hyped up at night, they prescribed me Xanax. So they
Bro.
first gave me amphetamine when I was 13, and then they gave me benzos when I was 17. And man, it's just like the system's broken, man, as far as that, like
Bro,
pushing pills, man.
to kids, like your brain needs to process and you know, there's so many chemicals going on when you're taking Adderall in the day and you need to take Xanax to sleep. Like you don't have time to heal and think and recover, which is insane. So did I hear you say that you swallowed kilos to transport it?
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude. This is one of the, like, and I'm being honest, this is one of the craziest stories I've heard, especially to know where, you know, you've got into. Before we get into you know, how it was, let me ask, like, your childhood. Was God always a big figure, or were your parents and yourself as a kid not that religious?
Yeah, so I was born in Denver, grew up 40 minutes southeast of there in a place called Parker. Had a good, you know, middle to upper class childhood. It was decent. And yeah, God was a big part of my life in the beginning until, you know, around age 13 when I started doing the Adderall. And when you're drugs all the time, when your mind is constantly under substances, you lose total connection with God. Like your spiritual being is dead inside, and
Yeah.
you're just kind of like craving whatever you want, like, and you're very selfish, and it kind of turns into that. So I even I won a national tournament, and I got chosen to represent USA and go to Russia and wrestle these guys. And it was called Athletes in Action, which is actually a Christian organization. And we wrestled these guys. I was the only one to win in Moscow. And then we dueled some people up in like Siberia, and we spread the word of Jesus up there as well. So, yeah, I mean, it was strong in my life, but once I started partying, man, I lost everything.
And I bet that's insane. And yeah, it's amazing. I've heard a lot of these stories, right? And God really can bring you out of it. I want to. So you spent some time in prison, and then you were in prison, not in America. Where did you spend 3.5 years in prison?
So my first part of my sentence was on an island called Tenerife. It's the Canary Islands. They're off the coast of Morocco. It's Spanish owned, English ran, and basically Africa, if you look at the geography of it. And and
Wow.
yeah, man. And I was able to train full time in there. I was able to wear my street clothes. That's another thing I want to speak against. Not only the pharmaceutical companies, but the prison system in America is basically crime school. There's no weights, there's no activities. You have to basically just join a gang, and they don't give you nothing to do. You only thing you can do is be a barber, and
Yeah.
barber shops don't hire felons. So it's like it's a revolving door. It's not
Exactly.
like they're not trying to make you better. Like in Spain, they're like, hey, like I speak Spanish pretty fluent now. You know, I got to do kickboxing. I got to do boxing. They actually let me start an MMA program in the north of Spain because after a year and a half, I got Con Air to a place called Leon. It's in the very top of Spain. And they actually had a boxing program there. And it was like the movies, man. I would box these guys, and the whole prison would watch, and the guards would place bets on it. And I
Bro,
had yeah, man. I did like 6 or 7 fights in there.
that's insane. So you were able to train full time while in prison. Did you? I mean, look, and be honest with me. I know we have 100+ people on the stream right now, but be honest. While you were training full time in prison, did you ever think it was an opportunity to be a UFC fighter one day?
Bro, like my mom sent me this like UFC or it was Fighters Only magazine, and I had this picture of like I think it was George St. Pierre fought in Montreal, and it was like
Yep.
70,000 people sold out. And bro, I posted that. I put that on my wall. I ripped it out of there, and I'm telling you, man, like, I knew it. I told everyone. I said I would beat them up, and then I'd be like, "Don't worry, I'm going to be in the UFC someday." And they would just look at me like I'm so crazy.
Wow.
And like I'm still in touch with like an Irish guy, one other American, crazy American that was in there, and they're like, "Man, you always told us that. We just thought you were crazy." So I did know, man. And it was like the buildup. I was like every day. I was like, wait till I get out of here. These middleweights don't even know. Like I was just like, just wait. And man, it was in the cards for me.
Bro, that I have so much respect for you for going through that, battling the adversity. I can't even imagine. And I actually want to touch on it if you're okay. Like, what are some of those low moments like? Like being in a prison cell, not in America, 3.5 year sentence. Obviously, I think you mentioned that you were kind of connecting with God during these times, but I mean, what were those moments like, man? You're probably in your 20s during that time, like growing up, or a little bit, early 20s. It's like, what is that like? What were some of the tough nights like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I remember one night I had like an epiphany. It was pretty early, like 2, 3 months in there, and I was kind of, if you wanted to, you could kind of, you could take drugs in there. They
Oh,
would give you basically, they would give you kind of anything you asked for as far as like pharmaceuticals and they were shooting heroin in there. I mean, they were doing everything in there. And so I started kind of like going down that path. And I remember waking up one night, I just couldn't sleep. And I like got in the mirror and I just like rinsing my face and I just like screamed no at the top of my lungs and like scared my cellmate. And
wow.
and I was like, this is not for me. These are not my people. I'm not made for this life. Like and then the fire just like kept growing. Like I was just like, wait till I get out, like wait till I get out. And I just trained harder and harder and harder every day and dedicated myself to training. And the food that I got was terrible.
I
So it
bet.
was like, so I just had to make do. Like I was mainly eating bread and potatoes for most of the time. And it was cool to see a drastic change in my body when I was free and I was able to train at a regular gym. And so I didn't start training MMA in a real gym until I was 26.
Damn. And that's old for UFC, right? Like it's like you're seeing young guys come in now at like 21, 22. They've been training like considered
Guys are
old.
getting, yeah, guys are getting in the UFC when they're 20 now.
Exactly.
They're training from age 10, you know?
Yeah, the sport's evolving. Obviously, the sport has went mainstream. I think they did a great job during the UFC. But thank you for sharing that story, man. I had no idea. Like I said, I follow you on Instagram, and I saw your most recent Valentine's post, and I heard from Crypto Empress. We talked a little bit, and he's like, his story is incredible, and it truly is. And I just got to say, man, mad respect to you because
Thank
obviously,
you.
you know, and I will say this, like, dude, a lot of it is probably not your fault. Like I will personally say that a lot of this probably has to do with whoever that doctor was at age 13 that prescribed you Adderall. How different would your life be? And I think you're right. The jail system is backwards in America, and so is the pharmaceutical industry. But obviously, I don't want to talk about that too much because they might come after me like they're doing to our guy Joe Rogan, which is going to lead us into
Seriously.
Rogan Inu, which we're going to be talking about in just a second. But you're a middleweight. We just saw the World Middleweight Championship in Houston, Texas this weekend. Did you have a chance to watch Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whitaker too? And if so, what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, man. Every time Israel and Robert, I'm always watching the middleweight division, keeping my eye on it. I wanted Robert Whitaker to win. I like him more as a person. I respect Adesanya's fighting style, but like my wife has always said, and I've always said it too. Like I want him to keep winning because I want to solidify my legacy by beating him.
Hell yeah.
So if I can be the first guy to beat him at middleweight, the fight was amazing. I don't think Whitaker won. A lot of people were going, but man, hats off to Whitaker for like using his wrestling more.
Mhm.
And he was just, you could tell he was scared to throw that right hand because he got countered so hard in the first fight. So he was striking a little bit more cautiously, but man, it was a good fight. It was entertaining.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
what's your approach, man? I mean, like I've watched Izzy for a while. It's like he's talented, man. He's tough to hit. He's shifty. Like he's a very talented striker as a UFC fighter and someone that in the next couple of years could have the potential to fight him. What would be your
Yeah.
approach to fighting Israel Adesanya?
Man, to fight Israel, you gotta take him down, and you would see he would get up one time. You need to take him down again.
Yep.
He would get up again and grind him for a while to
Yeah.
like wear him down. His cardio is insane, and then it's kind of like that. You're gonna he's thinking about the shot the whole time. I always say like a black belt striker turns into a purple belt when he's thinking about the takedown because he's hesitant and he's constantly like he doesn't like that. He doesn't want to be put in that position. So his body will naturally, his hands will move down so you can catch him with the over the top when he's thinking about the shot, and or if he's thinking about striking, you're taking him back down.
Absolutely. So it sounds like the takedown game will work, and it worked for Robert Whitaker. Obviously, it's like, he stuffed a lot of takedowns. He got back up quickly, even when he got taken down in the middle of the ring. It's like he got to the side of the octagon to use the cage to get up. But I think it's very interesting. Now, where did it start? Because I watched your fight when you signed the contract in the Dana White Contender Series. First off, what a knockout! Elbows, just like very, very violent. We love that. But where did it start? I mean, you get out of prison. You come back to America, right? Like, walk us through how it all happened.
So when I got extradited from Spain, I landed in New York, and I was on the run for felony warrants. And I went through customs. They scanned my passport, said, "Mr. Heinisch, come with us." And they took me in. They put me in the Jamaica Queens jailhouse for 4 days. Everyone was coming in and out. I mean, it was like the dirtiest, nastiest jailhouse. And I was just sitting there, and I was screaming at the guards, "Hey, when's it my turn?" They're like, "Shut up, you're a different case." And then I got sat down. A public defender said, "Hey, you're going to Rikers Island. You need to go to protective custody." And I was like, and I didn't know what Rikers Island was at the time. And I was like, I've been doing this for 2.5 years. I ain't going to Punk City. That was my mindset. And then they took me in there, and I was like, whoa, this is really an island. Like, if you haven't seen it, like, it's like one road, and then it's one gate, and then another gate. And I was like, yo. And then I was being walked through there, and I was in maximum security because I was a fugitive. And that was probably the roughest 2 months of my entire time in prison, for sure. I think I seen one other white person in there, and thankfully I spoke Spanish fluent. And it was hairy. And I got pulled out of there by the U.S. Marshal, and basically in the nick of time. And they extradited me back to Denver. And they basically did this around the country. I mean, like 48 hours later, we were back in New York, and I was like, what? And I guess they get paid every time they cross the border.
Wow.
And so, dude, they literally treat us like an animal, like shackled, like hunchback, like this. And the heater was broken in the back of the van, and it's February in the East Coast. And so we're like in the night, like shivering. And we're yelling at these guys, "Hey, like the heater's broken." And they're like, "Shut up." And they would only let us go to the bathroom every 6 hours. So I quit drinking water, because one time I had to go so bad. I said, "Dude, I got to go," because they had to take you to a jail to go. And they bounced a Gatorade bottle off my head. And it was just like, it was super degrading, man. 2014, which was just a day or two ago, I was released on Valentine's Day. Same day. Yeah. So, February 14th. 2014, I was released. So I'm passing my 8-year anniversary. I went and found an MMA gym right away. I went 4-0 as an amateur, all finishes, all submissions or knockouts. And then I turned pro. I went 8-0 as a professional. And then I was at the pinnacle of everything I've been working for. You win this fight, you go to the UFC. You lose, you're in the back of the line. It was for the LFA title. But a year before this, I tore my LCL, and I went to the doctor, and they gave me about 40 Percocet. Instantly hooked. I hadn't drank since I got out of prison, but I was instantly hooked. Next thing you know, I'm meeting guys in parking lots to get Oxy. I'm smoking it. I'm literally trying to quit 3 weeks before my fight, getting deathly ill from withdrawals the week before, and then feeling better, and then going and fighting, and then, of course, to celebrate the fight, and I'm not drinking, I'm just going to take more pills. It was a vicious cycle, man. So I went in this fight with Marcus Perez. I went in there, and I wasn't living right outside of the octagon. And when you don't live right outside of it, it shows in it. And I went in there and got submitted, and I was crushed, man. First professional amateur loss ever in my career. I was so broken. And I literally, I didn't know how to handle myself. I went on this camping trip with my buddy. I chopped wood till my hands bled. I went on this hike that almost killed us. Like, I took him on this. God bless him for following me through all that. I just wanted to hurt myself. And finally, bro, I got there, and my buddy gave us a Bible study, and I sat down, and I was like, all right, man, I'm so exhausted. Let's look at this. And basically they questioned my salvation. I was going to church. I was going to Bible study, but I was still taking drugs and sleeping around with women. And dude, I just felt so convicted. I was like, I'm a hypocrite. I'm not living it. And finally I got to the point. Hello.
Yep.
Sorry.
We got you. Was that Dana calling? Dana White?
Okay.
Yeah, we got you. We can hear you.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. Might be the Bluetooth. Can you hear me now?
No, I still can't hear you.
Let me check.
Let me
All right.
see.
Everybody in the chat, let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if it's on my end. It might be
All
those
right.
the Apple headphones. Can you hear me now? And this is a great
Sorry,
story
bro. I
too.
still can't hear you.
You're good. No worries. Let's see if can you hear me now? If you're in the
Should I
chat, let me
leave and
know.
come back?
Yeah, leave and come
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, people can hear me. What a story. Oh my goodness, guys. Are you kidding me? And we're going to get to crypto, don't worry, because we're talking about cryptocurrency here, but wow. What a story. I'm excited to hear more. We got Coco K in the chat. Ian Post, Satoshi, Crypto Empress is here. Hexboy, Cryptic Behavior. He said, we hear you both. My guy Randolph is here. Salute to Randolph. Guys, what a story so far, though, right? I mean, like, this is one of the craziest stories I've ever heard. As you guys know, I'm super into UFC, and Ian has an incredible story. So let's go ahead and bring him back in. Ian, can you hear us now?
Yeah. Sorry about that, man.
No worries, bro.
What happened?
It's the fun part about live streams. I've had crazy stuff happen on here where you kind of just roll with the punches. No pun intended, since we're talking to UFC fighter. But we're glad to have you back, and you can see here we're just chatting. Everybody's loving the story so far. So, kind of doubting your conviction. 8 years removed now, but doubting your conviction at the time, and that's kind of where we left off.
Yeah. So basically, my buddies sent that Bible study. We were reading it, and we were like, "Dude, we're hypocrites, man." And I got to the point where I was like, "Man, I'm so sick of trying to control everything in my life because it always messes up." And right then and there, man, full surrender. I was like, "Lord, take my life. I don't want this anymore. I'll live for you now."
Wow.
And went to church the next week. It was a baptism call. I had no idea. Felt it so strongly on my heart. I walked in that water. It looked clear. When I walked out, it looked black. And the Lord told me,
Wow.
that's your sin and all your addiction dead. And since that day, I haven't touched any drugs. At the time, I was broke. I was living in my buddy's basement. I was not in the UFC, and I was single and never paid taxes in my life. And a year later, I was married. I bought a home. I got in the UFC, broke into the top 10, and I was a tax-paying citizen, man.
Bro, your story is incredible. Like, I have goosebumps right now listening to it. It's just, it really just goes to show, man. Like, even when you're down and out, man, you're down and out, and you probably give up hope. Like, if you just keep going, you keep fighting. Like, look where you're at now, man. And I'm sure you always had the dream about it. You had the poster up, but it's like, I'm sure there were times that dream probably felt like a fallacy. It might not have come true, right? You probably didn't think so. And so much adversity too that you battled, man. Like, just having that addiction and tearing I believe you said your LCL, and then getting the Percocets again and going down that road again, man. It truly is inspiring. Now I want to pull up a video, and I want to walk us through this. So you had a chance to fight in the Dana White Contender Series. This is a fight that Dana White and the UFC put on, and essentially they sign athletes. They sign some of the top performers in there. You had a stellar knockout performance in this fight. I was watching this the other day. We're going to watch it here live. Let's take a look at this, and then we will go ahead and ask you your thoughts on it afterwards.
Colorado, 5-round fight. And then I was like, for sure I'm going to the UFC, because usually when you win the LFA belt, you get in the UFC. And my manager calls, one more win. And I was like, oh, man. And then I had to fight on the Contender Series because that was a big thing. They kind of changed it. You used to be able to get in through the LFA. Now they kind of wanted guys to go through their new show to promote it. And, I was excited for the opportunity, but I was kind of expecting to go in. So I went in there just with an attitude like, dude, I got to finish this guy. And I went in there, got the knockout, and I knew for sure. I was like, because they kind of know who they're going to pick. But when I got that knockout like that, I was like, definitely. And it was even crazier than that. 3 months later, I couldn't get a fight. No one would fight me in the UFC. And then I got a short notice to Argentina, 6 days notice, flew out, fought Cesar Ferreira. And that was in like late November, went out there and had a straight war with him and beat him in a decision. And that was when I collapsed in the back in the locker room. And I was like, oh, like, because I didn't feel good with just the UFC contract. I wanted a UFC win, you know what I'm saying, to really make you a UFC fighter. And then it was like, that's when I collapsed in the back and had that aha moment where I was like, man, look how far you came.
Man, Incredible story, and thanks for walking it. And sorry if it was a little bit choppy for those at home. The computer, I need to clear out some of the memory there, but it was looking pretty good over here. But I saw that, and that was just probably one of the most incredible stories. And you fought the best of the best. I mean, you fought some top notch. You fought Kelvin Gastelum last year. You fought Derek Brunson as well, Blonde Brunson, who just lost. I mean, you fought the best of the best. What does it take, man? Like, what is it like? Because I'm a fan. I go to the UFC events. Like, what is it like to walk out into the octagon, 40,000 screaming fans, get into a cage, the cage locks, and then you fight? Like, what is that feeling like for you?
Man, there's not many feelings that I know that compare to that feeling. It's complete. If you ever see like the intimidation video by Mike Tyson, it's so true. Like, you're in the locker room and you're like scared. You're like, this dude can beat me. Like, I've dreamed of him beating me. And then you start walking, man. As you get closer to the cage, it's just like your confidence just builds and builds. And then when you walk in that cage, man, you just feel like unstoppable. And I always feel like I'm like, man, I've done all the work. The Lord knows what's going to happen. I just need to go perform. And you can use your nervous energy to either fuel you or fight against you.
Yep.
And so you got to let that fuel your body to push you forward, to actually make you perform better. So it's almost like, man, and that's why it's been so hard since COVID. I've been fighting at the apex my last few fights, and it's like I knocked out Gerald Meerschaert, and it was like a golf clap, and I was just like, man, this ain't the same.
No, you'd be at T-Mobile Arena and 40,000 people screaming, getting hyped. Hopefully you get back there soon. Now, we're going to come back to the UFC. Obviously, I want to talk about that, but I got to talk about you. We just hit the 30-minute mark. Let's talk some Mandox. Mandox, a new token that just came up. Let's talk about JH Mons real quick, one of the devs of the Mandox team. He said, this partnership for us with Ian was easy. We share the same heart, same love for the Lord, and same love for the community. Mandox is blessed to have you on the team. I wanted to bring that up before we come out there. JH Mons, shout out to our guy, JH.
Shout out, JH, Justin.
Now, that was a perfect transition into Mandox. This is a project, like I said, man, I review a lot of tokens, right? I check them out. I have thousands that are, reaching out, asking me to review them. When I first saw Mandox, I was like, okay, this one's different. They're doing it differently. I'm big in NFTs. I purchased a Mandox NFT, which I'm sure you have a few of them. They're pretty badass. They're very badass. They look great. They sold out. Congratulations to the Mandox team. But this project was doing it differently for me. There's three things that I look for, Ian, when I evaluate a project. One, community. As I'm sure you can tell, right around 3,000 holders, it's a very, very strong community. Two, the dev team. We just talked about their mission, their love for God. Look, they're good people in the crypto space. I think people get into crypto to change their financial future and make money, but you can also do good things while doing it. And three, their use case. I think there's a lot of things we can talk about today with their use case, but obviously the NFT music platform, they have their NFTs. And you actually mentioned some stuff about, games that we'll get into. But let me ask you, when they approached you, you mentioned the love for the God and you mentioned connecting with the dev team, but what really was it for you when you first saw Mandox that was like, hey, let's go ahead and go with this company?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, it was just like, it was kind of on the whim. I saw how fast they were moving, and I liked back when I was buying coins like that, I wasn't doing too much DD. Like, to be honest, I was kind of looking for new coins that were shooting up, and I just bought into them without knowing much. And when my money like 10x'd, I was like, wow, okay, let me look into this. And I really started diving in. And when they have the Mandox Create coming out, where you're going to be able to make your own NFTs, and it's a music platform in the blockchain. And I just saw how transparent all the devs were. I got added to the admin group when we teamed up, and I just see how hard they're working and just how good people they are. And then obviously the NFTs were amazing. And then they have a play to earn game coming out. I just feel like they hit every single aspect of the crypto space. Their ecosystem is just so strong. Their dev team is such hard working, and their mission is just amazing. And they're just getting started. Like Luke is been doing this. He's been a missionary. He's been helping kids, and they're going to be helping Luke. And I believe they're not stopping in Guatemala. They're going to be all over America and all over the world, to be honest.
Exactly. It sounds like they are, and I truly do believe they are. And it really is. You're right, man. It's like their ecosystem is building, it's developing, and I like what they're doing on the Mandoc show. I was honored to join them last week for the Mandoc show on Friday night, and I'll be back on the Mandoc show with your pop, Austin Hilton, Zach Humphreys. Look, when you get those three guys on there, I mean, they have a combined almost like 400,000, 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's like you're catching the attention, right? You're catching the attention at the right time. Are you going to be tuning in tomorrow with that live AMA on Twitter with the three guys and the team?
Bro, absolutely. That's probably one of the most epic AMAs I've ever seen. Like, if you're looking for an entry point and you want to ride a big wave, like you said, man, combined, all those guys have so many followers on so many platforms, and you're going to get them all together at once to speak about one token. And man, I follow all those guys. They've helped me a lot, like including you. So you guys coming together to do that, I don't think that's ever been done.
It's never been done. I've never hopped on a live stream with them. I think I've had a few of them on. We've like collaborated. These are like my good buddies in the space. Like we collaborate all the time. My only question for Luke. Luke, am I not a special guest anymore, Luke? Luke's got special guests, your pop, Austin, and Zach featuring Jake Gagain. I don't know what's going on over here, Luke. Am I not a special guest? I come on one time and I get removed from the special guest. No, I'm just kidding. But we're gonna have some fun, and I think it's good to have those people, you know, on their radar and talking about their token. Obviously, man, this is still a bearish market. I mean, if you're looking at, you know, crypto overall, a lot of stuff. And shout out to my guy, Ian Randall. He said, absolutely amazing content, Jake. Love tuning in and seeing the guests you bring on. So informative. Keep up the great work. This is my guy, Ian. Same name as Ian Heinisch, one of my friends down here in Orange County. Good guy right there. Thank you for tuning in, brother. I appreciate you. But looking at the charts, Ian, I mean, look, I invest in quite a bit of cryptocurrencies. A lot of my portfolios are not looking the best, right? In the past couple of months. You take a look at Mandocs. I mean, hey, this looks pretty bullish to me, man. This looks pretty bullish.
And like, that was another thing too, like their charts, they just keep going up. And honestly, they really haven't even started marketing until a couple weeks ago, like maybe 3 weeks ago. So, you know, and now they have the trifecta of all the influencers and people that have huge followings coming together. So I'm excited, man. I could see it doubling this week. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I think it's a long-term play. I mean, and shout out to my brother, Brody G. Let's go, Mandoc. Shout out to Brody. We need to get Brody some Mandocs. We love Ian here. Let's go. Yeah, we do. We love Ian in the Gagain household. This is now one of my good friends, and I consider you a brother, and I have so much respect for you, and I look forward to collaborating with you more here in the future. But I agree, man. It's like it's the momentum. It's the momentum for these tokens. Like when you find a token underneath 5,000 holders, you are so early. Even when you find a token underneath 10,000 holders, you're so early. I've seen it with SHIB when I was covering SHIB, just the parabolic run-up that what happened. I saw it with Saitama, the parabolic run-up that happened. And there's always going to be the next token. Look, the reason I started covering Mandocs is because it is that feel-good story, because they have a transparent dev team, because they have a strong community, because they are giving back. And I think, you know, if the stars align, which it looks like they are, and the crypto market continues on this bullish trend, the sky's the limit for Mandocs.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm super long-term and bullish on Mandocs. Like, I see it being like the next Doge, the next Sheep, the next Saitama. Like, I mean, the way it's growing and how everything's lining up and how they're touching on every area. Like, I'm holding long-term, man. I'm all in with it. So
I love it, man. I love it. Now, another thing about the UFC is fighter pay. I don't want to get into it too much. Obviously, it's you know, you probably don't want to talk about it too much, but it is a thing. Jake Paul's going after Dana White, talking about fighter pay. Everybody knows, you know, kind of the numbers, but also at the same time, and I'm sure you'll probably say this, is like you get to fight in the UFC, right? You don't have to fight in other places. I'm sure you could probably make more money in other places, but there's a new token that came out pretty recently, and that token is called Rogan Inu. Excited to learn more about Rogan Inu on the podcast tonight. MRI. I tweeted this out earlier today, and I saw a tweet from you. I saw a tweet from you that said, hey, when Joe Rogan, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this was said from you, when Joe Rogan notices this coin that's giving to fighters as his dog, and when he mentions it, probably on his podcast, it's the most streamed podcast in the world, this thing is going to explode, man. Ian Heinisch, top 10 UFC middleweight. So first off, let me just make sure you did say that, correct? That is a quote from Ian Heinisch. I don't want to put up some fake quotes. And then second off, what are your thoughts on Rogan Inu? Did they approach you? Is this another token that you're kind of, you know, partnering with and going to help promote?
Yeah. Yeah, actually it is. So basically, before the fights last weekend, I saw some people that I knew and some people that are managed by the same managers as me start saying, "Hey, there's this new coin. It's Marshall Roganinu, and they're helping out fighters." And I was like, "Man, what are they? What's going on?" I dove into it a lot more. I had some people I really respect kind of do some DD on the token, and they were like giving guys like up and coming fighters that needed like money for new mats. They were like giving them ETH for it. They were
Wow.
like they basically gave almost more than half of the fight card on the undercard, because those are the guys who get paid less, 5,000 in ETH, and if they mentioned MRI coin on after their fight, they would get an extra 10,000. And
Wow.
they did their own fight of the night that the community chose 25,000 each. And then
Wow.
so I reached out to them. I had a conversation with one of the devs, and dude, I told him my story because I've been going through it, man. I was supposed to fight Sam Alvey 2 weeks ago, and about 2 months before that, I got a concussion, and I took about a month off, and I knew I had this fight, but I think I might have came back a little too early, or it's just been a lot of concussions for me. But I kept having residual effects. Like I would start training really hard, and I would get fainty, like almost faint. I'd have splitting headaches at night. It would wake me up
Damn.
sometimes. So it was like rough, man. I really had to pull out of that fight. I wanted that fight so bad. And I spent like $10,000 on fight camp, and then I had to end up pulling out of the fight. And I only get paid when I fight. We don't get no salary. We don't get nothing. So,
Wow.
and if you lose your fight, you only get half of your money. And so I shared my heart with Marshall Roganinu. I've been trying to get down to Mexico or Colombia and get this stem cell treatment, literally where they put it in your brain stem and put 50 million stem cells there. And I also have a Hashimoto thyroid. I've had an autoimmune disease, and I was diagnosed before the Derek Brunson fight, and it's made me gain weight. It's made me have harder weight cuts. It's made me feel fatigued at times. I didn't feel my cardio was as good as it used to be almost. And it's kind of showed a little bit in my career I lost to Brunson, I lost to Omari, then I knocked out Gerald Mearshart. So it's been like lose a couple, win one, lose a couple. And before that, it was just a straight trajectory. So Marshall Roganinu sent me a huge bag of ETH. I went and paid for my treatment in Mexico, and I leave this Sunday. I'm going to be in Mexico all next week doing stem
Wow.
cells. And it was all thanks to them. And they just bought this guy, Fabio, who lost his fight. The Buffalo Soldiers, his nickname.
Yep.
He's one of my teammates. He couldn't get to the gym anymore because his car broke down, and they just agreed to buy him a new car. So
Oh my goodness.
it's crazy how much they're helping fighters, and it's just a blessing. And I just think they have the trifecta with the marketing, because soon the MMA media is going to catch wind of this, and I'm helping to make that happen. They're
Yep.
going to the media, Francis Ngannou was the biggest thing talked about. $600,000. He's the heavyweight champ of the world, one of the biggest stars. And then you got Tyson Fury, made $25 million his last fight, and it's like the UFC is way bigger than boxing, but the pay scale is so off because the UFC is new. And so I know the fans want to help the MMA fighters. They're always talking about. I know the media does too.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I can see fans investing in this coin, which helps UFC fighters and other MMA fighters in ONE FC, PFL, Bellator. But I think the media is going to catch on to this, say, look what this coin's doing. And eventually I do think Joe Rogan's going to see, hey, there's my dog that's paying UFC fighters. And for people who don't know, Joe Rogan wasn't even allowed on the broadcast because they're trying to cancel him. And there's a lot of controversy with him, and he's the most watched man in the world right now. So if he speaks to this coin, man, it could go parabolic. And the mission they have with the UFC fighters is a blessing. And I'm looking for other fighters that have a compelling story, that they need help, up and coming talent. And I'm kind of one of the advisors on who is going to get blessed by them.
Dude, I see that as well, because like I said, I follow the sport. The number one topic right now, yeah, you have good fights, yeah, you have good fighters and matchups, but it's like it stopped coming up in the UFC press conferences, but it is still a heavy conversation. Is fighter pay? Jake Paul kind of leads that. Joe Rogan talks about it, and I think this is the perfect branding. It's Joe Rogan's dog. It's helping fighters, and obviously you have that story right there as well, backing it up. And I think you're right. You're one one news story away and one Joe Rogan mention away from this thing really taking off, going parabolic, but also being something long-term that helps fighters. Because at the end of the day, man, you guys are going out there, bro. You guys are going out there and fighting. Like, you have the chance of getting knocked out, bones broken. Like, it's the most brutal thing. I have so much respect for you guys. And to get 10,000 and 10,000, you know, and you only get paid when you fight. And I'm sure you can probably speak to it. Half of your pay probably goes to the camp and coaches and whatnot. Like, I mean, how much are you really walking away from after a UFC fight?
I mean, I do better now, obviously, because I broke into the top 10. We do get a decent chunk, but we only get half of our money when we fight. When I first got in the UFC, it's 10 and 10.
Yeah.
And so if you lose that, you get 10,000. You're paying 10% to coaches, 20 to 10% to management, depending on who you work with. And you got about 20 to 25% to taxes. And then you got to think of all your massages you got, all your recovery you got. You got to think about all the food. The food's insane what we have to buy. And then you also have to fly your coaches out. They give you one coach, but you have to fly your other two, because you usually need a striking coach, a grappling coach, and then a training partner that mimics who you're fighting. So you got to buy 2 extra plane tickets, and then you got to get an extra hotel room, and then you got to feed these guys the whole fight week. So, man, at the end of the day, in the beginning, you're not making much. And, you know, I mean, I'm getting stitches on my head. You know, I'm waking up in the morning, like, spitting up blood. Like, I mean, it's, you know, we love what we do. And I say it, most fighters don't choose fighting. Fighting chooses them. But at the end of the day, man, we put on great shows for the fans, and we just want to get compensated for it. And we don't have a pension. We don't have retirement. We don't have none of that. So that's why I'm taking it to myself to invest in crypto, so I can be taken care of after it and not see myself go through what a lot of other fighters have to go through.
Exactly. And respect for you, to you for doing that, because, you know, crypto has changed my life. I'm sure you're starting to see incredible gains and seeing the opportunity that it can present to you, right? Like, I just left my corporate job, which they're like, hey, Jake, you get a salary of this. And it's like, oh, it's so great, but it's nothing compared to even one trade in crypto, right? Like, you put in, you said $500 and it turned to 4,000 in a couple of days. It's like, you can't do that anywhere else. And it's like, that's a good amount of money. So respect to you for taking the initiative. I personally believe I'm starting to see crypto become more mainstream. If you watch the Super Bowl, which I watched a little bit, I was at a bar in LA partying, so I can't say I saw all the commercials, but there was a lot of crypto commercials that were going on. You're seeing more people invest in it, more people, you know, talk about NFTs. You're kind of taking your Twitter platform, at least, to really dive into crypto in depth. Is this something that you're going to start, that we should start expecting to see from other UFC fighters? Do you think we're going to start seeing more people start to promote crypto and get into cryptocurrency?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what Marshall Roganini is doing too. A lot of guys are like, hey, what is this crypto? Like, hey, we'll teach you how to make a wallet. Here's some ETH. You know what I'm saying? And then they're kind of getting, you know, you got to kind of get some skin in the game to really get going with it. And, you know, obviously crypto.com sponsors the UFC. We wear it up big letters across our shirt.
Yeah.
$180 million deal. We don't see none of it. You know, I was like, man, could they give me like, could they give me some crow? You know,
yeah, like a little bit, man. How about $1,000, right? Like, this is $180 million deal. I'm rocking it on the weigh-ins and stuff, like a little bit.
Yeah. So, and I'm just seeing so many fighters, and I've kind of led a bunch of fighters to Mandocs. I worked for Blue Sparrow for a short amount of time, and I've just been bringing a lot of fighters into it. And actually, a few fighters are bringing me into the NFT game. Randy Costa, shout out to him. He kind of showed me the NFT game, and I still don't quite. I'm not as knowledgeable on NFTs near as much as I am on crypto. But yeah, you're going to see a lot more fighters getting into it. Maybe not to the level I'm at, as far as just like diving all in, and especially helps since I've been injured for a little while. So I just been like dedicating to this, but. Yeah, you're going to see a lot of fighters. I know Francis Ngannou's been in it for a while, and he took half of his purse in Bitcoin. So they're already our fighters. Matt Brown, he's a legend, one of the most knockouts in the UFC. He's been in Ethereum forever. So there are fighters that are in it, and but I'm just blessed to partner with some amazing tokens and hopefully set up my future.
100%, man. I'm very interested as well. Like I said, it's like, dude, I respect you guys. Like, I pay for your events, and you guys are putting on one of the most incredible shows, and I think you guys need to be compensated way more. And it's like, I probably won't have an impact on that, but what I can do is assist in helping to promote this token right here. Let me ask you a question, and we could probably talk more about it off air, but you've obviously connected with the devs. You've done your due diligence. People have looked at it. Is this a project that you're like, hey, these guys are legit, like they're doing it the right way?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, like, I mean, I've talked to the devs. The devs aren't docs. That's the only thing that's a little red flag for me. But they say that they're possibly going to get docs soon. But yeah, no, I mean, I've had people dive in and look at the contract and stuff, and everything seems legit, man. And it's hard for me to even question it right now because of what the amazing things they're doing for us fighters. But I've looked at it. I've had people look at it. Everyone says it's super legit, and the community's strong, super strong already. And I would say it's a great token to invest in.
Absolutely. I'm gonna dive in and invest. And also I see us like, even using my platform in the crypto space to help promote them and give them a platform to talk, because I love what they're doing. Obviously. And devs not being docs, it's not that crazy for me, because being a docs dev is pretty insane. I've seen developers, when the token goes up, they're literally Greek gods. They're put on a pedestal. And when the token goes down, they're the most hated people in the world. So personally, I would never start a token. I like to be independent and talk about them, but I would not probably dox either. So it's not too much of a red flag, but that's incredibly exciting to see that. And like you said, you're one Joe Rogan podcast away from that thing going parabolic. Let's talk about Joe for a second. Let's talk about Joe. He's obviously called a bunch of your fights. You've probably had the pleasure to meet with him and talk with him. I mean, what are your thoughts with what's going on with him in the media? And for those that don't know, Joe Rogan he has one of the biggest podcasts in the world. I listen to him every single day, pretty much every single podcast. And he's speaking his mind. He's speaking out against big tech. He's speaking out against big pharma. He's speaking out, telling, the truth, or at least what he believes to be the truth about what's going on with COVID and mask and vaccines. And look, the media is trying to cancel him. Like they just pulled a compilation of him saying the N-word from 11 years of doing recorded videos. And I make recorded videos. I've probably said so many dumb things in my past, but they're trying to cancel him. As someone that's connected with him, I'm sure you have. I mean, what are your thoughts with what's going on with Joe Rogan right now?
Yeah. Oh, real quick, I just saw a comment. He said the Surtech audit is going with Marshall Rogan. They're in progress right now. And
boy.
And honestly, too, I think the reason, I'll get back to the Joe Rogan thing, but I think the reason I'm so like weird with the docs is just because how transparent Mandox is. It's insane. Yeah. So, but dude, I just going back to that, dude, I think Marshall Rogan is super legit and their cause, and I'm just brand new to them. So, but I'm behind them. I'm partnered with them. With the Joe Rogan thing, dude, and I love what he said the other day. He was like, instead of trying to, the solution isn't to cancel me. The solution is to show me a better argument to what you're saying is true. Because really, Joe Rogan, he doesn't really choose sides until he has, he really plays like devil's advocate. Like he really brings on one guy who's totally on that side and really questions him. And then he brings someone on the other side of the, that thinks opposite of them. And really, he's brought on some amazing professionals, and they just don't like, it just obviously doesn't fit their agenda. And we could go on about that. Yeah. But like he said, if you're going to try to cancel me, that's not the key. Just prove me wrong. Like he's open to talking about anything. And it's just sad that they tried to make it like he wasn't taken off the UFC the other night, but it did come out that Disney and ESPN was not allowing him to be on the broadcast.
No way.
Joni.
I did not know that. I no way, dude. That's really what happened?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Dana White didn't admit it, but it's pretty obvious. It wasn't. They said it was scheduling issues with him, but it turned out that Disney is part owner of the ESPN. So, yeah.
That's crazy. Well, look, he might not be able to call UFC fights if it comes down to that, but he'll always have his platform. Like I said, I listened to pretty much every single Joe Rogan episode. And he tells it how it is. And he'll always, no matter what they say, no matter what they do, like I've listened to him for probably 4 years. I know he's not a racist. You probably met him. You know he's not a racist. There's probably a lot of UFC fighters, white and black, that know he's not a racist. So it's like, it's kind of scary and sad to see what they're doing. But at the end of the day, he's always going to have his platform. There's no way to silence him. He'll go to another one. If he started a new website called JoeRoganPodcast.com and I had to go to my desktop to listen to his podcast every day, I would do it, right? So it's like, he's always going to have his following. He's always going to have his influence. And ultimately, I don't think he'll ever get canceled. I mean, do you think that it's possible? It's scary. I didn't know that with Disney and ESPN, but I mean, do you think he's ever going to get canceled, or is he too strong and too powerful right now?
I think at the end of the day, it's kind of like money talks. And some people might be corrupt and have an agenda and try to cancel him because they're speaking against something they don't want. But I mean, that's just dangerous to like freedom of speech. Like, you don't have to agree with him. People can say whatever they want. People can say crazy stuff. You don't have to go and be like, it's not. So I don't think they can cancel him. Because like I said, they're getting the most views out of anything with him. That's why Spotify hasn't let him go. And I don't think they will, because like money talks and he's bringing in the most views.
Yeah, he's bringing in the most views and he has the attention. And dude, I'll be honest, like, look, I'm sure not everybody agrees with him. I'm sure a lot of people that don't agree with him have probably never listened to him. I think that's what the issue is. When you just turn on CNN and you see the clip that he had, which he admitted was bad, and it was definitely bad, you probably think, bad things about him. But when you listen to him all the time and you understand where he's coming from, like, this is a guy with a good heart that's just trying to bring facts to the people. And he messes up and he makes mistakes, and he admits when he's wrong. But it's scary to see. I didn't know that with Dana White, that I saw him in the press conference. He's like, Joe Rogan could have been here. He decided not to. But then you have to remember who owns part of the USC and ESPN and where it's broadcasted with, and that's a slippery slope, man. It's kind of sad to see.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think they can keep him away though, because like Joe Rogan's part of the UFC aura. You know what I'm saying? So it would be crazy for them. I hope he's on the next pay-per-view, and just prove him wrong. Then if you guys like bring your best guy and show them the facts, because Joe Rogan's willing to do that. And if you follow him on Instagram, he's really been speaking out about what his podcast is about. It's not to give his opinion. It's about to hear a bunch of other opinions, and he makes his own opinion on the thing. So, I don't think he's racist, and I think people are just misunderstanding him, and he shouldn't be canceled.
Exactly. You try to cancel the powerful, but I definitely support him. I'll publicly support him, and you can buy MRI to cancel culture. You can cancel culture. This is a project that I'm gonna have on my radar as well, man. The fact that you're in there, and what did Wallace say? Wallace said he's gonna fight. You're gonna fight Ian, but it would have to be on Xbox since I don't have a PlayStation. Okay, well there you go. I saw I was gonna fight Ian. I was like, that's another slippery slope. But it looks like he'll fight you from the Xbox, because no PS4 there for Wallace.
Yeah, right.
That's funny, man. What? Like I mentioned, I told you we're going to keep it to about an hour. We're approaching that hour mark, man. We talked about a lot. Thank you so much for sharing your story. It's a truly inspirational story. I had goosebumps while you were telling it, man. Like, just your perseverance and fighting through the adversity and just all the tough times that you went through is just incredible. And I just want to say I'm very proud of you for where you're at and for battling through that adversity. And dude, I wish you nothing but the best. I wish you just consecutive wins and, happiness in the UFC, happiness with your wife, and just abundance outside of the octagon, in the crypto space, and any business endeavors that you decide to go in. And I just want to say this publicly, man. You have my full support. You have a friend in me, and I'm here if you ever need anything. I'm just so grateful that you came on today, and I look forward to working with you more in the future.
Yeah, seriously, Jake. Keep doing what you're doing, man. You have one of the most entertaining YouTube channels out there, and so informative as well. So I really appreciate you having me on, man. I'm excited to collaborate again with you in the future. And shout out to Mandocs, man. Those people just, it's God's token. It's amazing. Yeah. And guys, big shout out to Marshall Rogan. Thank you so much for paying for my treatment. I'm going to be back soon in the cage. I'm going to be healthy in no time, and you're going to see another big comeback, because that's what I do. And guys, buy some. If you want to support fighters, get some Marshall Inu, not financial advice, and make sure you at Joe Rogan, because he needs to talk about it, and he will soon. So God bless you, Jake. I appreciate it, man. And thank you, everyone who listened. Have a great night, guys.
Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, go follow our guy, Ian Heinisch, on Twitter at Ian Heinisch MMA. Go give him support. I'm going to tweet out his Twitter after this as well. But once again, thank you so much, Ian, to the 100+ people that tuned in tonight. Thank you so much. Shout out to the Mandox Militia. Shout out to the Rogan Inu family. You're going to be seeing more collaborations between me and Ian here in the future. We appreciate your support. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. We're going to get Ian healthy, and we're going to see him back in the octagon soon. Thank you.